It's been an amazing week, the culmination of over a year of activities. And, working together, we decided to focus on heart failure rather than all of cardiovascular disease and biology, because heart failure in many ways is the future of cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
Age-adjusted mortality in the United States from heart disease has dropped 75%. People are surviving their heart attacks, they're surviving their VF arrests, and they're going home with an injured heart. The obesity epidemic is leading to metabolic stress and another form of heart failure. So for that reason, we focus like a laser beam on the different manifestations of heart failure: reduced ejection fraction from an ischemic etiology, from a metabolic etiology, HFpEF, inflammatory diseases, and in each instance, we started the session with the clinical picture of what it looks like in the trenches taking care of these patients and what I wish I had in my toolbox. And then we had some amazing basic science talks trying to fill that toolbox.
Exactly. And you know what, Joe, you mentioned it in your talk, which I loved. It's such a global condition. I don't think there was any instance, I remember a session, without some female participation. And I think it's really important for a good, robust conversation.
Yes, I think that actually the most impressive features of this particular Keystone Symposium is really not only have the very much a focused topic, but also have a diverse topics of angles to attack, but also the participants from their background in terms of basic science or clinical research, and as well as industry leaders. And this is time we had almost 20% of our attendees from industry, and many of them are their first time. They are in metabolic space, in other disease areas, and they appreciate the emerging needs, unmet needs of heart failure as a future drug development, as well as, of course, scientific investigation. So I'm very happy to see the focus as well as the topical arrangement and the design really resonate with our field, not only in the current state, but I think in the coming years.
Yeah. In fact, Yibin, you brought up the industry participation. I think that's one of the best sessions for me in this whole symposium. It was amazing to hear that perspective, and then to hear the basic scientists chime in. And I can't tell you the number of times I got the feedback of how much they love the translational aspect. And I mean, not just bench to bedside, but like how to bring it into a product and into the market, and what are the issues. I thought that was really informative.
Those are the talks sometimes you don't hear in the either very clinical meeting or very basic science focused meeting. And that's why the Keystone Symposium appears to have this really nice gap, fill this very important gap to bridge this. And I think it's very important to really accomplish this mission that we set for us, is to really cross the divide between translation during the translation from basic science to a successful therapy. So, Joe, Carolyn, what do you see the kind of most memorable features or memorable sessions that you have experienced in this symposium so far?
Well, I think to amplify what you both have said, that the most memorable sessions were around the coffee machine, I think.
Well put.
The silos, the basic science silos, the industry silo, the regulatory, the payer silos, they don't talk to each other, and that's exactly what we tried to get around. To have a bi-directional conversation between the people who know what the problems are and the people who are problem solvers. And I thought that was really successful.
You know what I feel before we set up this conversation between the industry people and the academic people, our conversation always about us and them.
Yeah.
And after the session, I realized they are actually all of us.
Right.
We are on the same side. I mean, we share the same concern. We had the same challenge to think that every single heart muscle is different intrinsically from a female heart versus male heart. That is, to me, a total different perspective about the sex differences.
Yeah.
And,
I thought it's especially powerful as an outsider and someone who's coming into our field to say, you people don't know how lucky you are. You have the most highly phenotyped cell in the body. arguably it manifests as much, perhaps even more, sex-based differences than other cell types. Yeah. And you've got all these tools, everything from phenotyping the heart to analyzing molecular and cellular events. I'm coming in. I'm joining your field because this is the cutting edge of where sex-based biology and the biases in either direction will be sorted out. I thought it was really powerful from someone coming from outside the field.
Yes, it's especially the leader from a totally different perspective. You know, he's a leader in evolutionary biology, molecular biology, and he look at this issue from a very different angle that we usually don't have the experience or have the knowledge to. So this is wonderful.
And as a clinician and as a trialist, right, I could say that about almost a large majority of the talks, that they were coming from such new areas. I can hardly remember a time that I was just learning at each of the sessions.
I saw you taking notes at the front row.
Yeah. I did. I know, I'm a geek.
Well, definitely, I took a lot of notes too. It's a whole book actually. It's wonderful, yes. It's always very intense in terms of the scientific contents, but at the same time, I feel because it's so linked to the clinical unmet needs to begin with, it makes so much sense for us to appreciate the value of the scientific research. And I think it really helps us to think in the future what we should do as a scientist. I'm a basic scientist, and I feel this kind of experience really helped me to shape what's the research priority, what will be the question that drive our bench-side research. And I think it will make all of us a much better scientists and more impactful discoveries.
And I think a dream we share is that we hope this will shape the careers of these early career people who were here, who gave the short talks, who were standing in front of their posters and engaging these conversations, that we have shown them that the worlds of clinical need and discovery biology have to work together. And hopefully it'll have a transformative effect on them as they launch their career.
Yes.
I think this is definitely the way of future meetings. We have to break down those silos and talk, future, what else could we dream of? Maybe breaking down silos even with, we talk about it in the journal, disciplines. Endocrine and cardiology, because cardiometabolic is one area. It became obvious that breaking down those silos enriches everyone, right? I think this is definitely the way of the future.
In the past, we all kind of corner ourselves or even position ourselves and build walls around us to say, this is my area of research, or I'm in metabolic, or I'm in, sarcomere biology and biophysics studies. I think this meeting really helped us to really put all of those differences, but in the same context of the spectrum of heart failure. And I learned a lot, certainly, by looking at the interaction between different sessions. I remember when they talk about metabolic in heart failure, and they inevitably always mention the half path.
Yeah.
But then when they talk about the sarcomere genetic composition, the genetic contribution, and underlying biology of the sarcomere biophysics, they connected with half-life and half-life. So to me, it's just it's very organic. Help us to actually really appreciate all of our research, how to contribute to this. What I think is the continuum of discovery in order to deal with the complex of the disease, and that's perhaps something I feel also very much encouraged by the industrial leaders that come to us say, we need to better understand and stratify and classify this complex disease in order us to have more effective therapy. And I thought that's almost like our mission to accomplish from a basic and translational scientists.
Yeah, I thought it was refreshing that we go to meetings a lot, right? And sometimes you see the same actors over and over again. We had a diverse group. It was really a new set of faces. And I had a number of people come up to me and comment on how they thought the cadre of speakers was unique in some ways. And the level of science was, I thought, spectacularly high. Some of these talks were, including the short talks, were really fabulously high quality science. It was really a pleasure to sit there and listen to them.
Yes.
That's the basic, I think, requirement of the Keystone meetings, and we definitely met all of that, and
we're very lucky. Yes, I think if we can use the contents or the outcome of this meeting to have a projection of what will be in heart failure medicine as well as research in next 5 or 10 years. What do you think? Where are we going?
Well, we had an entire session on precision cardiology, precision cardiovascular medicine, and that was so enlightening because we talked about it in a very real way, not throwing the term around and even recognizing that many people use the term machine learning or artificial intelligence in many waffly ways, right? We discussed that. We discussed what are the gaps, what needs to be addressed. Wilson Tang discussed how to operationalize it. I mean, it was so practical.
Yes.
We had, I remember someone going up and saying, you know, I'm trained in science and all this bioinformatics is so intimidating.
Yes.
And the speaker said, well, I frankly did not come from a bioinformatics background as well. And it was just so real.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really was. And I'll answer that question by saying that my friend and mentor, I'm privileged to say that Eugene Braunwald has been and is a mentor of mine. And he gave me permission to quote him on this, that the thrombocardiologist of the 20th century will be replaced by the diabetocardiologist of the 21st century. Metabolic stress-induced heart disease is exploding around us. The epidemic of obesity and diabetes and metabolic syndrome is not just in the West, it is everywhere. It's changing the face of heart disease and other things. And so I think the interface between metabolic stress and heart disease in many ways will define much of the future. And I would love to see that emphasized going forward, because I think that's where a lot of the action will be.
That's great. I said more basic science sort of in this fight for heart failure. I would say, you know, I would have a very different projection about the skill sets we all need, and we all need to be able to step out of our comfort zone, to embrace new technology, to learn how to use large data sets to guide our future research rather than focus on very narrowly on one very small sort of molecular aspects, and to be able to integrate into the system using your discovery. I think that is going to be a very important direction for our research, and I hope this will also serve well for our future trainees, you know, future scientists who are in the training right now. So I think they all need to acquire much more diverse skill sets and knowledge base in order to actually be successful in the future.